You're listening to the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. It's fast, fun, free, daily deep dive Bible. And right now, we're talking about Galatians.
Last time around, we were trying to put our heads together and figure out what the heck you call it when somebody has a thing that is said of them. I kept using the term reputational statement. It's not a title. It's not a nickname. It's a thing that is said of a person. Like, well, that guy was pretty terrible, but he made the trains run on time. Or that guy came and saw and conquered. Reputational statements. That's the term that I came up with for it. Some of you came back and you were like, is that called a moniker? I thought, that's pretty good. Maybe moniker would also work. I've heard that term used for a few different things. That's pretty good. Some people just said, is it a reputation? A persona? That term for a reputational statement, that's pretty good as well. Whatever. The point is, Abraham has one of those in the Bible. Abraham is one of the, what would you say, 5, 10 most important, famous human characters in the Bible. He's really the first human character we deeply latch onto and pinch zoom in on, and the first human character we closely follow over the twists and turns of his whole life. He's the first really relatable character in the Bible. I mean, you get to know Adam and Eve a little bit, but Abraham, he feels like a person living in a time that you could imagine. Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, Noah, it's kind of harder to feel that personal connection. It's like they're from a time so distant, so far into the past that you maybe don't connect with them as a character. But Abraham, he's a huge deal in the Bible, and there's this thing that gets said about him, a reputational statement that runs through the whole Bible, which is, I'm quoting from Galatians 3, verse 6 here, he believed God and it was credited to him as righteousness. What a wonderful reputational statement to have attached to your name and your legacy. Ooh, that was another one that somebody suggested, a legacy statement. Well, that was pretty good as well. At any rate, in the course of his argumentation here in the letter that he's writing to the Galatian church, the Apostle Paul is citing Abraham as an example of right standing before God being achieved simply by the grace of God, simply by believing in the grace and the character of God and trusting God. Paul is giving us an example from this famous character, Abraham's life, and from his reputational statement to say, everybody knows Abraham didn't do anything. He didn't go out and take salvation by the lips and yank. It was given to him by God. It's like God wasn't even on Abraham's radar when it all started. And so Paul is doing something really smart here and tapping into this example and this reputational legacy statement about Abraham, because everybody would have known it, and it would have caused everybody's brain to hearken back to how Abraham gets his start in the Bible, to the moment where we first meet him. And the moment where we first meet him, in a weird roundabout way, reminds me of the moment when I first met my wife. We were in room 201 of, they call it McLennan Hall. I think that's what they called it, at Trinity College in Deerfield, Illinois, a college that is now defunct. And my first class was Clifford Williams Honors Philosophy course, and I didn't know anybody. I was nervous. I was afraid, and I was a tiny little guy my freshman year of college. I weighed I'm not kidding, like a $105. I was 5'4". Fortunately, I had a good solid growth spurt left in me in college, but I was like, the girl thing's probably not going to work out while I'm here because I was pretty overwhelmed by the whole experience. Didn't know where I was going to fit, and so I walked into the door a couple minutes before this class was about to start, and the prettiest girl in the room, no disrespect to any of the other ladies in that room, she looks right at me and pats the seat next to her. I was like, are you kidding? Is this happening? And of course you do the thing where you look over your shoulder and she's nodding like, yes, it is you. Come sit here. Okay. So I went and I sat right next to her at the table, and she introduced herself. Her name is Camilla. I'm Matt. So I said, thanks for letting me sit here. And she's like, yeah, there's somebody else who I thought was going to try to come sit by me, and I didn't want him to. So thank you. Okay. I'll take it for that reason. But here's the point as it comes back to the whole Abraham thing. At least based on what she said in that moment. Deep down, I would like to think that it was just animal-like attraction to me that caused her to pat the seat, and she was just not being totally honest about it. But at least based on what she said, there was nothing about me other than the fact that I was a warm body that made her pat that seat. You're the next person in the door. You sit here. Okay. I didn't do anything. I hadn't demonstrated any merit. I hadn't shown her any of my 6 skills yet. She didn't know that I could hit a slider pretty effectively. She didn't know that I could draw comic book characters with stunning accuracy. She didn't know that I could occasionally pick out the harmony part when singing hymns in church. She didn't know that I could bench press 110 whole pounds. She didn't know anything about me. She just invited me to sit there because that was her choice. Now, what was born out of that is the most amazing blessing of my entire life. I have 3 kids and we got married, and she's my favorite human that I ever met. So amazing things came out of it, and I would like to think that along the way in there somewhere I did something. Maybe that's where the analogy breaks down. But when she first, quote unquote, called me, if you will, for the sake of the metaphor, I didn't do nothing. I was just standing there, and I got picked. The end. I can't take credit for anything. Likewise, in Genesis chapter 11, when we meet Abraham, he went by Abram back then at this point. There's nothing. We don't know anything about him other than he had a family and where he lived. That's really it. He's just the guy standing in the door of the classroom. A total question mark in the book of Genesis, a complete unknown. And then at the beginning of chapter 12 of the book of Genesis, God points a finger at him and is like, you right there. I pick you. Huh? What? Me? Look over his shoulder. Seriously? Me? Yep. You. And then God just starts talking to him about stuff. I'm going to read that to you in a second. But bear in mind, as I read this, that clear over here, I just flipped a ton of pages over to the New Testament. In Galatians 3, when Paul is hearkening back to Abraham, and he says to the Galatian church, consider Abraham. He believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. Understand then that those who believe are children of Abraham. When he says that, he is assuming that they have knowledge of Abraham the Great, the man of faith, and all the things that he did. But implicitly, he's inviting them to remember how it all started. And here's how it all started. Ready? The descendants of Shem. I'm not going to actually read all of these. Genesis 11. This is the account of Shem, one of the 3 kids of Noah. 2 years after the flood, when Shem was 100 years old, he became the father of Arphaxad. I always thought that was a cool name. I don't know that I've really tried to say it out loud very many times. And then a lot of people gave birth to a lot of people and other people. Aber, Peleg is in there. That's a cool name. Serug. And then at the end of the list of names of people descended from Shem, you got when Nahor had lived 29 years old, he became the father of Terah. Terah, not like Tara, like the girl's name. And after he became the father of Terah, Nahor lived 119 years and had other sons and daughters. After Terah had lived 70 years, he became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. It goes on. This is the account of Terah. Terah became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran became the father of Lot. He comes up a little bit later on in Genesis. When his father Terah was still alive, Haran died in Ur of the Chaldeans in the land of his birth. Abram and Nahor both married. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah. She was the daughter of Haran and the father of both Milcah and Iscah. Now Sarai was barren, she had no children. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, the wife of his son Abram, and together they set out from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. Terah lived 205 years, and he died in Haran. So let's just break it down real quick here. What do we know? Okay, well, he's descended from Shem, and Terah was his dad, and he's married to a lady named Sarai, and they don't have kids. And he's got some other family members, and they migrated. So maybe something happened where he used to live. Whatever reason they decided to move, the patriarch of the family, Terah, took Abram and his grandson and some other people in the family, and they're like, we are going to go to Canaan. But they didn't make it for whatever reason. They stopped in Haran, which is north and east of Canaan. That'd be like maybe southeast Turkey, Syria, somewhere up in there. And then Abram's dad lived there for 205 years, and then he died. That's it, my friends. That is it, church in Galatia. That's all we knew about Abram. He had not demonstrated any particular character. Maybe you could say he went with his dad when his dad said, you have to come with me, but that would be a pretty normative expectation in this time and place in the world. There's just nothing special here. There's no remarkable trait or attribute. He hasn't done anything particularly righteous. I mean, at other points in the Old Testament, God says, or the author of Genesis says something like, well, this person was a righteous person, or, where is it? Genesis 6. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked with God. Okay, well, you could see why God might favor Noah, but we don't get anything like that with Abram. And the very next thing that we do get in this story is Genesis 12:1. It says, the Lord had said to Abram, leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the peoples of the earth will be blessed through you. That's it. Abram didn't do nothing. He was just standing there, and God picked him for apparently God's own purposes. Full stop. So even from the very beginning of Abraham's screen time in the Bible, the very beginning of Abraham's relationship with God, it could be said of him that Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. His right standing before God was not because he was some Mary Sue who was already automatically great at everything. He was the chosen one who had the birthmark of the one who was prophesied to come to defeat the evil wizard. Nope, none of that. Just some guy. And I don't think that's some sort of thematic accident. I think there is real theological truth and example in the fact that this is the backstory of Abraham that we get from the Bible. And it goes from there was a guy to then the Lord gave him this gigantic stack of promises and blessings. That was it. It was God's favor. It was unmerited. And Paul is making the case that that hasn't really changed. If there is favor from God, it is because the favor of God. If there is right standing with God, it is by the power and the grace of God. That can be difficult for people to accept. And that can take our brain to weird places initially. But Paul's going to take more time to flesh this stuff out in Galatians and other parts of the New Testament as well. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.